In 1999, as a professional motocross athlete, Aaron Baker sustained a career-ending spinal cord injury. He fractured cervical vertebrae 4, 5, and 6, rendering him a quadriplegic. Paralyzed from the chin down, he was given a 1 in a million chance of ever feeding himself again. From the onset of his injury, his focus was on rebuilding and redefining his life. Today, he is a recovering quadriplegic, husband, father, adventure athlete, author, orator, entrepreneur, and ambassador for spinal cord injury.
All right. Well, first off, welcome, Aaron, to AwareNow podcast interview for the adaptive issue. This is my partner, Allié, who is an amazing human being. And we're grateful to have you here today because you are definitely an example for any human being that, is faced with adversity. Your journey is definitely a very empowering journey. So we look forward to hearing about all this. I think first, it'd be good if you could start off by telling us, we always ask the same question. Who are you? Not what is your name, but who are you?
Who am I? Well, I'm called Aaron Baker, but I feel like I am a mirror, a reflection of you and others, to show inner strength, spirit, possibility. Through my adversity, through my struggles, I'm able to reflect that to others and show them what you may be able to overcome, to transform adversity into a grand adventure, which is what life is.
That's right. It is actually, can be, if you allow it. I think it might be helpful if you tell us a little bit about your accident and your injury and how you found yourself in that. Just tell us about your experience that led you here.
Sure. Over 2 decades ago, I was just a young, ambitious athlete. I was a professional motorcycle racer, and I suffered a traumatic fall. I had a mechanical malfunction, and I fell off the motorcycle from a great height, and I impacted the ground, breaking my neck, which instantaneously paralyzed me from the chin down. And I remember the moment vividly. I remember everything leading up to surgery. And I awoke a few days later to a grim prognosis. The neurosurgeons gave me a 1 in a million chance of ever being able to feed myself again. And not long after that, I had an even more profound experience where I suffered pneumonia, my lungs filled with fluid, and I flatlined. And that moment has been the foundation to my entire life moving forward. It's a vivid experience, profound, as I said, one that awoke me to our interconnectedness, the beauty that is life. When I opened my eyes for the second time in my life, I took a breath with great reverence, and gratitude became a mantra. And so I realized that the greatest gifts in my life are time and love, and all I can do with that is share it. So essentially, I've built my life on those values.
Wow. That's deep. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know. So thank you for giving us that explanation. I mean, when I hear stories like yours, I'm always jealous because when I suffered my, similar life-altering experience where I almost died, I kind of took the wrong path. Like love wasn't the recipe for me. So I admire your ability to kind of shift and navigate through that and rebuild, because it's, for those of us that have suffered some sort of variation of that, it's not easy, right? It's tough to muster up the balls to get it done and get through it. in a positive light. So kudos to you for that, and you are an example, like I said. Tell us about your family. I mean, we like to have conversations here versus ask questions, right? But I know, one thing I see as I observe you on social media and have conversations with your family is really important to you. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Time and love. You share it, right? You share it with those you care about. I'm truly blessed to have incredible, loving family members surrounding me. And so, my intention is to just show up and be present for them day in and day out, to reciprocate that love and generosity, that ferocious support. I want to be that for them. So I'm a new father. My little girl is turning 2. So I guess I'm well into it now. The terrible twos are true. She is a wildcat. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it every day. I've built my lifestyle, which affords me time with her. I'm able to work from home and cherish these moments with her, because the cliche is true. It goes fast.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I didn't have terrible twos. I thought everyone was like, brace yourself. I mean, it wasn't for me. I got terrible 20s going on. You know what I'm saying? Like the twos were amazing. But I can understand it, and it does go fast. And having a girl is a whole nother vibe for a dad. It's like,
I love being a girl dad.
Yeah, well, me too. I got 2 of them. I love it.
Yep.
I definitely love it. What's your favorite, if you could hone in on one thing, like what's your favorite thing to do with your daughter?
I was actually just paying close attention to that this morning. Here in my office, she'll knock on the door and she'll come in and she'll jump up in my lap and reach for the highlighter pens and the pens, and then she'll come over here on top of my stack of important papers. She pulls out her coloring book.
That's right.
And so we'll sit here together and draw and color and count things and name things and read. So these are special moments. I really enjoy that.
That's one of the cool things I think about parenthood, is just that adaptability that is required in any given moment. I was making snowflakes, cutting out snowflakes with our son, and they were not just snowflakes, they were transformer snowflakes, mama. I said, oh, that's right, let's do that instead. So adaptation in so many levels, but certainly with parenthood.
Yeah, anytime she just kind of makes herself present at any given time, I may be in the middle of something important, but I'll just stop and recognize, this is very fleeting. Like, I won't have her at this size, this age, this, moment. So I just pause my life and say, you know what? Come here, honey. Let's do this.
That's great. Art is definitely a good, that's interesting you say that. Like, obviously I'm in the art business, but that was one of the things that I like to do the most with my kids too. I mean, I prided myself on bringing them to events, because it's like big badass Eddie's got a daughter, it's kind of cool, that little shocking thing to see me carrying my kid. But I really like creating art with my kids. I still have, at 20, I still have a box full of, art supplies I bought them 17 years ago, along with all these drawings. And motivate me. Maybe I'll pull them out this holiday season and do a little video or something. That's great. So, I know that you're giving back constantly, right? Like, you give back to your family, but you also give back in a lot of other ways too. Tell us about Red Bull's Wings for Life.
Wings for Life, yes. Wings for Life is Red Bull's charity of choice. It was founded by the founder of Red Bull, Dietrich Mateschitz, and his best friend, Heinz Kinnegadner, who's a world champion motorcycle racer. Heinz's son, Hannes, suffered a traumatic spinal cord injury back in 2003. And those two leaders scoured the globe for some type of solution to this injury. And Dietrich thought, why is there not a cure for this injury? Because it's just that, it's an injury. It's not a disease or an ailment. It's not genetic. And so, he thought, well, let's just fund the best world-class science and research, and let's push this forward, and let's find a cure. So he vowed to do that, and thus created Wings for Life, and have been funding research ever since 2004. I sit on the board of directors with that organization, and we are incrementally moving the needle closer and closer in multiple areas of research, stem cell being a primary area. And I feel like I'm a part of the solution, right? I want to help make this happen for the future. Hopefully in my lifetime, I'll get to just spring up out of this chair and do a cartwheel again, but it's not about me. It's about the next generation, my daughter's generation.
Yeah, you talk a lot in your book about the mindfulness and the mental state of getting through it, and that's kind of a basis. Tell us about that. I mean, there's a bunch of things that we want to talk about. Allie mentioned the toenail polish portion?
Yeah, the painted toes bit. Yeah. I'm curious to just have you share that bit of it.
Sure. Well, we jumped right into.
Yeah, we segued. Segued.
Well, this is it here. That's the Rebellious Recovery. This is the not for sale copy, but that's the book that was just recently published in this past summer. I'm very proud of it. It took a lot of hard work for me to dig in and relive a lot of my history. It was a cathartic experience, but I'm proud of what has been produced and the stories that are shared in there, the people that are recognized, and a little bit of the process. I touch on this mindset process. I guess kind of distilled it down into a simple framework, an acronym called BASICS, 6 letters that are somehow meaningful to me. And essentially what you're referencing, Allie, is painted toes. It's a section in the book where early on in my recovery, my sister painted my toes with her nail polish, rainbow colors, against my will. But it actually served me quite well, because it became an exercise for me, the art of visualization. Visualization was a tactic or something I was familiar with as an athlete, something that I practiced, visualizing positive outcomes, visualizing perfect technique, visualizing winning, or, and somehow I instinctively applied this same fundamental principles to visualizing my body, connecting my brain to my body, my mind to my muscles, using color, using my painted toes. I would visualize blue from my left blue toe, up my left leg, into my spinal cord, up and to my mind, then red swirling through my spinal cord, yellow and green, and I swirled all these colors around in my mind and willfully pushed them through the injury site in my spinal cord, illuminating my body in this kaleidoscope of color. Because otherwise, the act of visualizing your electrochemical nervous system is quite ambiguous. It's quite challenging, unless you truly know anatomy, unless you really understand the nervous system, which I didn't, but I did understand color. And so that was the way for me to focus my mind into my body, and it was my left blue toe that connected first.
That's amazing.
Oh, so just when we talk about the mind and the body working as one and finding their way together, so beautiful.
Yeah,
so powerful.
It's like the album cover of Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon, where you've got that white light that goes in and then it refracts all the colors on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
My mind was that. I'm actually preparing it's a guidebook, really. It's a really short guidebook called Painted Toes, which I'll publish next year. And hopefully that will find its way into the hands of folks that are trying to make that reconnection in an artful way.
So speaking of art, you know, we share a common goal in the art world, Artists for Trauma. I know that you've been a long-standing board member and a champion of Artists for Trauma for a while. You want to tell us about how that came to be, or just tell us about Artists for Trauma?
Well, Artists for Trauma, as you know, was founded by our dear friend Laura Sharp, who herself suffered a traumatic experience, and in her redefinition and her rebuilding of life, she came to the realization that she has an opportunity to give back and to make a greater purpose out of her suffering. And so she created Artists for Trauma. And at that time, I had recently founded a restorative exercise business, a gym, with my mother. So we had this sacred space where people could come in and exercise and improve the quality of their life. And Laura came into the space and we connected. There was an instantaneous kinship. We could relate to each other, sympathize, empathize, and all we wanted to do was share with this community. Right? I had people coming through our doors that were, suffering on some level. Laura brought her community of artists and volunteers in, and we created this amazing experience at my facility. And Laura and I just knew that we needed to work more together and to amplify the program, engage the community, and I've been a part of it ever since.
Amazing.
That was back in 2011. So
yeah, I'm a newbie. I'm a newbie. But yeah, her story is amazing, and some of the work that we do is amazing. Looking forward to 2023.
Absolutely.
We got to get together and chop it up and figure out some roadmaps to success and how to integrate everything that we're all doing, because that's what it's about, is proximity and integration and collaboration. I think that's one thing that we're all here gifted with, is like so many amazing things happening around us that we can utilize to help others. And being of service seems to be a common thread. So I can appreciate that. Allie, what do you got?
Man, I'm just so inspired by the work that you do and the amount of work that you do. It seems you sit on so many different boards, involved in so many different organizations, and yet you seem to have just this serenity about you. I'd love to hear on the days, because they're not all good days. We all have good days. We all have bad days. On those hard days, on those tough days, what is it that helps you push through that?
Such a great question, Allie, because believe it or not, today's a hard day. I'm not extremely clear today. I scribble on my whiteboards, I make my notes, I read my books, and I conceptualize my future and try to organize my thoughts and such. And I'm not always really clear. I'm not always really strong. My body is still severely impaired, and managing a spinal cord injury is my greatest challenge, especially as I age. So that still, has a monopoly on a lot of my bandwidth. But I called you out, Eddie, the last time we spoke on the phone, because you said, man, I'm burning the wick at both ends. I'm running around. I'm busy as heck. And I can completely relate to that, but it's also about, as we age, finding that grace. You often hear balance, but it's more like the awareness of the now. Giving yourself that space to just be present and allow, it's really an act of surrender. which is a great source of power, and not projecting too far with anxiety, not reflecting back too far with depression, but being present, being peaceful, being gracious and grateful. That's why, in this acronym that I've put together, it's breathe first, turn your attention inward, surrender to the moment. And then when you inspire with intention, commit to the process, and then serve others. That's the acronym BASICS. So I repeat this in a cyclical pattern in my mind to try to just keep moving forward and do it graciously. So
it's a great answer.
Today's not super clear, but I am happy to be here with you guys. That's enough.
So everything you said, I ditto, because today was, today it's been a rough couple of weeks. November's never fun for me. My dad died on November 11th. I was in the hospital for attempted suicide shortly thereafter. Attempted suicide on Christmas Eve. So November 11th through Jan 7 are usually a very destructive time for me, and surrendering is what I'm heavy 12-stepping right now. And surrender is definitely a key portion of my process right now. So it's like, to your point, like, just don't think too far back and don't look too far ahead. And sometimes that can seem boring, because we're such producers, right? It's like, so if I'm not like scratching off the list or like getting a win, I'm like, well, what am I doing today? And sometimes it's okay to just be and accept it as it comes. So thank you for that reminder, Aaron. You're a wise young man, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 43. I'm no spring chicken.
Wow, that's young. That's young. You're going to live to be 90, so you're not even halfway there yet.
Well, and I love how you, in one of your more recent posts on your Instagram, I don't think I'm going to get it right, but you were talking about that you can't, if you have anxiety, it's because you're, living in the future. If you have depression, it's because you're stuck in the past. And just to find that space, that serenity that comes with, just to your point, what you just said, just being present. And I'm not sure why we feel so tethered to either past or future destination, that it's so difficult to just be. We're human beings. Why is being so hard? I don't know.
It is the challenge, right? I was asked, recently, I've done some pretty audacious athletic endeavors, like cycling across the country or walking across that valley, which are extreme undertakings, but they're quite a bit easier than just the monotony of daily life, because they are very specific targets, very, focused goals that you can suffer for. But relentless daily mental suffering is much more challenging to manage.
Yeah, how about that trike? Tell us about your motorcycle.
Oh, that's a motorcycle. Yeah, now I have a motor. I spent a good long while human powered. In my process of recovery, I did a lot of human powered things. Now, the motorcycle was reintroduced to my life 19 years after my spinal cord injury. And I do have a Harley.
Yeah.
I have modified it in a way that allows me to ride it safely enough so that I can enjoy the wind in my face and the freedom that it gives. And there's enough healthy fear in doing so that it keeps me mindful and respectful. And I love it.
I love what you just said there, mindful fear. There's something powerful about just that term.
Yeah, I mean, we naturally are fearful creatures, right? With our own self-preservation, we're always analyzing risks versus rewards. And I think about the risk versus reward with this motorcycle, because I have a lot to lose in terms of my family and my well-being. And the risk that I take riding that is quite high. I'm very aware. But what it does for me in my life experience is, again, I am that mirror. I am showing my daughter, I am showing others that in the face of this fear, I choose love, I choose the adventure, I transform the adversity. And I live wide open, and I try to be mindful of that process. I don't want to be scared, and I'm not going to be, belittled because of it. So respect it, and then grab the throttle.
What if you had to, like, if somebody came to you with a similar condition as yours in the early days, and I know you have a book that kind of walks people through some things, but if you had to advise someone on what to do, and not the big answer, but just right now in the present, like, hey man, great success, I'm so inspired by you, but I'm scared to death, what do I do? What would you say?
I've said this often. You just have to be willing to face it, willing to be open to the reality of it, the fact that it is suffering. And where I found the most solace was at night when I lay my head on the pillow, that I was satisfied, let's say content with my effort. But not satisfied with where I was, content with my effort in life. And whatever that it was, if it was a flicker of movement or none, if it was the movement of an arm or my first step, that I gave all of myself to that process. And if I was in a dark space, I'm in a dark space, and that's human. But then celebrate the wins as well. You just have to be willing to walk through the fire. The way to the other side is through it. There's no other way. You have to take responsibility for it. Own it. And there's a big, distinct difference between acceptance and owning. I never accepted my spinal cord injury. I owned it and then went forward with it. Acceptance for me is a bit passive. When you own it and take responsibility for your circumstance and the choices that you deliberately make, then you become empowered, inspired, and you act on that.
That's big.
Be willing.
That's big. That is big. What about you? I heard you're starting a new company, correct?
Yeah, I've formed. It's an educational platform, which is under development. It starts with the books, and it will be a consortium of masterminds, others like me, that have lived through their own adversity and are compelled, like you, like Laura, to share it and to be a guiding light for others out of the dark and into the light. It's called New Mind, PNEUMIND, which is an amalgamation of pneuma, which is a word that is stoic in thought, the creative force of a human, and then mind. So, New Mind.
Well, sign us up if you need anything. We're here to help. Right, Allie?
Indeed, we are. Absolutely.
Besides just spreading the word via our platform, we do have an army of angels that are behind us that I'm sure can relate and resonate and be of service. So the AwareNow squad is here for you.
I love that. I love it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for making me think of when you just were talking about the will, you have to be willing. It made me think of that cliche, where there's a will, there's a way. I don't think I'm ever going to think of that in a different way now than what you just shared right there, because that was really powerful. Thank you for everything you've shared.
By the way, Allie, is Aaron aware of your condition?
MS.
Yeah.
I didn't know if she had told you. So we're all fellow travelers here.
We
Did
are
a little
fellow
reading.
Well, the thing of it
fabulous,
is,
Allie. You're living so well with it.
The thing of it is, it's like, again, like realizing the wins, right? Like, yeah, lost vision this side, but still got this one. So, rock it like we do. And that's what we do. So, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron, for your time, your inspiration, and your willingness to help others. You are a champion in my eyes, and I'm grateful to have you as a friend and a partner in this process.
Likewise, I appreciate you both. Thank you sincerely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Al, you going to give us that special AwareNow goodbye, though?
Why don't we do that? Why don't we just, again, with gratitude, say thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your words of wisdom, your light, your love, and thank you for helping all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
All right.